Good evening, folks. Mike Rasmussen, Councilman at Large here, coming to you with an update from the council meeting on November 1st, earlier than some of my other council updates because we actually got done just about 8:30 or so tonight. So, want to start off just a little bit of sort of updates from some of the reports that were given out. Couple of things. First and foremost, I hope folks got a chance to see. I know a lot of people went out last night for trick or treating. We were out on South Street and some of the places downtown. It was a lot of people out. It's great to see lots of people. And a big shout out to the police department. Smyrna PD put on a haunted house and had, an orders of, I guess, an estimated a couple of thousand people made it through and came and visited. So thank you very much to Chief James, the entire staff there. Sounds like it was a great event. We didn't make it over there, but I'm sad that I didn't. But always nice to see a lot of people come out and have a great time. And there's just such wonderful decorations and people having a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone who makes that a great night, for not just for the kids, but for those of us adults who have to sort of get out there and walk around with them and enjoy ourselves as well. So thank you there. There were a couple of updates for agenda things for people to see. A month and a half ago or so, we were trying to schedule a couple of grand openings for the new basketball courts in Green Meadows and in Sunnyside. Those had to be rescheduled. They have now been rescheduled for November 13th at 10 a.m. and noon, respectively, in Green Meadows and Sunnyside. There's going to be grand openings for those basketball courts. Obviously, they're already getting lots of use. The response has been fantastic on them, and so it's happy to see an investment that the town made jumping in and being used by the folks right off the bat. Hopefully more to come on some of those investments in our parks. Actually, I have a little bit about that here in just a second. Actually, I'll do it right now. One of the things that was mentioned in the meeting today, and we've started work on this a little while ago, the town just recently acquired a piece of property at 621 North Main Street. This is the piece of property that folks might know. It has a Marino's landscaping building on it, and it's often had signs or trailers out there. It is catty corner to the municipal park, some of the property the town owns for the municipal park. And it also borders up to town-owned property that's right by the middle school. The idea on acquiring this, when it was presented as an opportunity for us, was it actually gives us the ability to connect the municipal park to the properties owned by the school, obviously the ball fields and everything that are up there. And hopefully, as part of our parks master planning process that the Parks Committee is undertaking, we can find a way to better connect those community resources. Colloquially, one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is it may be a neat opportunity, a place to put like a dog park or something like that and utilize a wooded area where can't really build anything because of the way that the creek is situated on the property, but it could provide just a really neat opportunity to do something more that the community's looked for and connect some of the cool community resources we have. So we just completed the acquisition of that piece of property this last week, and it will be part of that planning process around a parks master plan that hopefully we'll be approving in November, the next meeting here in November, the proposal to pick a company to really sort of lead that effort. So more to come, but a new piece of property that can hopefully expand our parks. Little less fun stuff. One of the updates we got was our audit report is nearly done for the year. From an operational standpoint, people think of audits and they imagine it's all about the finances, but the audit also includes a lot of information about operational changes that the town should be making to be more efficient, to be more transparent, to make sure that we're using best practices. And so there's usually comes out of the audit a number of different things that gives us the chance to try and make some operational improvements. So we'll see what that comes back with this year. And every year it's a chance for us to do our job a little bit better. So we should be getting that pretty soon. I see a comment popped up here from Michelle Brewer. Hello. About the abandoned properties. Not sure which ones you're talking about. There certainly are a number of abandoned properties here in town, both underused or unused buildings or lots. Each one of them probably has a bit of a story. So if there's a question about any specific pieces of property, though, please let me know, because we definitely try and address those. In Lake Como Woods. So we've got a conversation tomorrow, and the mayor gave a nice little update. He has been trying to work with the developer in Lake Como Woods to try and identify and begin to remedy some of the issues that have been, plaguing that. And we know about potholes, and I know that there's some other things that have not been done. It's a challenge for the town when a developer gets approvals to build a piece of property and create a community, and then ultimately doesn't live up to what their expectations are. And the town has limited vehicles to hold them accountable for that. It's actually one of the things that we've made changes to in some of our zoning pieces. It doesn't help for things that happened in the past, but it does set us up to be able to better dictate those investments that are necessary for a development to be completed and signed off by the town going forward. So Lake Como Woods is a challenge because the developer obviously, yes, for a while has not met the expectations of the folks who invested in that community. They have not wanted to live up to that. And so trying to figure out what legal methods the town has to hold them accountable for not making that investment. We actually have another conversation about this tomorrow to try and see what path forward might exist to do something about it. I know the mayor is trying to be proactive and work with them, but it's challenging. So hopefully I can have something for you sometime soon, but certainly reach out. Both the mayor, Councilman Brown has been talking with them about this as well. They probably know more in detail about the specifics for Lake Como Woods. So, but I'm happy to try and find more. That was the main updates from the committees that were shared with me. The agenda for tonight was a significant one. We had a lot of items, though it actually ended up moving along pretty quickly. One of the things that we had was, as I mentioned in the last meeting, a group called Fresh Start Resource Center had approached the town about trying potentially leasing a piece of a building from the town. Ultimately, they're not going to move forward with that. There's concern is expressed from the business owners in the area of that. But what was very clear was this is a great organization. They're trying to do a lot to support a marginalized section of our community, those suffering from homelessness or issues surrounding homelessness. The town is looking to try and help identify potential resources. Really what they need is a building. And so trying to think about what we might be able to do that could support this organization, ultimately providing services to folks in our town, but it's not going to be moving forward with a building that the town owns on Main Street. And so, but they were thankful for the opportunity, and we were thankful for the work that they're doing. And so hopefully there'll be more on that in the future. We did have the third reading for the lodging tax ordinance. It's at this point we voted on it 3 times, and it's been approved by council. It will go into effect the middle of next year. The expectation is the lodging tax will raise around $50,000 a year, and that money is dedicated towards public service, so helping to fund police and programs that sort of fall under that public service line item that we've got. So that's moving forward. We had a request. This is the second time we've talked about this for the Smyrna Redevelopment Authority. This is it's the official name is not a great one, Slum Clearance and Redevelopment Authority. The SDR, the Slum Clearance and Redevelopment Authority, was created to help make investments in the downtown. and to try and foster the sort of redeveloping business or commercial entities as well as residential properties. For a while, it was funded from vacant property fees. So if a property sits empty, the town can levy a fee against it if that property is just sitting there, it's not being marketed, it's not being maintained. And those fees created a fund of around $80,000 that the redevelopment authority has been using to make grants for a while. Well, they've basically expended all of those funds, and we took action this evening to recapitalize, to begin sending more funds from those vacant property fees, which has raised about $11,000 a year, to put some more money back into that fund so they can continue to do some of the facade grants. Earlier this year, we changed it so that they can do a little bit larger grants to commercial entities, trying to encourage some better investment in some of the downtown properties that need a little bit of help. Right in line with that, we also approved a proposal to use some of the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, to do some bigger facade grants. This is going to be, we allocated initially $200,000 with the idea that a commercial entity within the downtown, and it also includes some of the IORP zoned areas, so like the business park. If there's a business owner or a property owner there looking to make a significant investment that we think would make a large improvement to the streetscape, the facade of those buildings, that they could apply for up to $50,000 as a grant. This is ARPA funding. It's not coming out of our directly out of our town taxes. It's from federal government funding. But this is one of the things they said they thought was a good use of these funds. So this is a bit of a pilot. The hope is that we have some property owners who are interested in making investments in their buildings to improve the streetscape, maybe it's to improve it to make it better for a potential sale, maybe it's just to improve it to better attract potential customers and things like that if it's a retail business. Owning a business, I know that that's $50,000. It's not going to cover a project. Some of these projects are likely hundreds of thousands of dollars to improve a building in the downtown, but $50,000 might be that meaningful investment that then helps them go to a bank, helps them find the financing, encourages that type of investment. So we think it's a worthwhile effort to try and utilize some of these ARPA funds. So we've allocated $200,000 to this initial piece. And then if there's a lot of response and it looks like it's going to get some traction, maybe we revisit it and we look to see if we can increase it and utilize some of those other ARPA funds for it. So it's a bit of a gamble, really. I mean, honestly, you want attractive buildings because that encourages the neighbors to be attractive, right? We all know if you live next to a house or you live next to a building that doesn't look very nice, it's tough to justify the investment in your piece of property. So hopefully we can help spur some of that goodwill by investing in some buildings that we can encourage their owners and maybe the other owners and people down the street that it is worthwhile investing and fixing up some of these pieces of property. So a bit of a gamble. Fortunately, it's gambling with ARPA funds rather than our own tax dollars. But we'll move forward with that and hopefully have some great stuff to report in the next year or so once some of those projects get underway. November is National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and so we have a proclamation recognizing that and the importance of the research and programs out there to support people working to solve and working to cure pancreatic cancer, as well as those people supporting their family members or their community who are going through that. So if you don't know much about National Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, we'll have a proclamation that we'll be posting up on the website about that. And then we got into the new business. So we had a couple of zoning ordinances that we addressed this evening. One of which was to create what is called a planned village community zoning district. This is something the town's actually done already as a conditional use, or sorry, a special exception that a developer could apply for. It's a way to build communities that look a little bit differently than your traditional suburban development, because that's a lot of what our planning and our zoning code has allowed over the years. And a lot of folks have seen things that look kind of like this. Bayberry community, Whitehall community up in Middletown have more of this feel, where there's single family homes, there's duplexes, there's townhomes. A lot of stuff is built closer to the street, so there's smaller backyards, maybe bigger backyards, entry alleys from the back. It makes much more of a downtown community feel versus the developments that are individual homes, largely spread apart, cars parked in front of the house type of communities, that sort of traditional suburban development that we've seen. So we've already approved actually the first planned village community. It's going to be one of the developments down off of Sunnyside and between Sunnyside and Brantford Road on Rabbit Chase. But this actually creates it as a zoning district versus something that you could apply for if you were a developer. And so there's some potential new development from property that was annexed many, many years ago on the north side of town that we've now created this planned village community zoning district for, to make sure that those communities have the amenities that they're looking for. This sort of addresses maybe some of your stuff, Michelle, about developers not living up to their agreements. Helps us give a little bit more control over what those developments will look like and what standards they need to meet in order to get approval. So it's a good thing, from my opinion. It also means, every community right now is struggling with this idea of diverse and affordable housing. And, it's, if you use up a lot of land, putting as few houses on it as possible, because they're very large houses and they're spread far apart. In the end, that means you have a lot of infrastructure and costs just supporting a very small number of homes. And it drives up taxes. It drives up a lot impact fees and assessments on homes. Versus having communities that have a mix of smaller townhomes, duplexes, smaller and mid-sized single-family homes, detached homes. All of that is a much better use of land for a developer, and it's a much better use of the infrastructure investments for a community. So we want to see more of that. And it means that there's also a more diverse set of housing options at different price ranges for young families to be able to buy their first house, for more established families to be able to take that step up house but not have to leave the community that they've grown to love in. So I think that seeing more of those type of communities is really important. We don't have a lot of land to build in Smyrna, but what we do have, what developers currently do have, we'd like to see it be as community focused and have a lot more amenities than I think has been the case in the past in that traditional, vinyl box farm, suburban development type of mentality. So that zoning amendment got approved. We also did a zoning amendment that changed. The town has had what we call the highway corridor. So this is Route 13, basically, from by the rest stop all the way down to where Glenwood and 13 come together, sort of the boundaries of the town there. For years, it's been split up into different zoning districts, and we really combined those zoning districts and utilized some building standards and some zoning standards for anything new that goes in there that is intended to make it a little bit nicer corridor as development or redevelopment along 13 occurs. Certainly, most of it's built out at this point. We're not seeing tons of new development that's right on that corridor, but as you look at pieces of property that may have had one use over the years, and that ultimately will be redeveloped into something else, having some better standards and some better requirements for what that looks like in the long run improves that thoroughfare in our community. And there's no doubt that Route 13 is it's a billboard for our community. It's how a lot of people get in and out of our town. So anything that we can do that I think improves that over the long term is a good investment for our folks. So these are all things that were planned in or part of our comprehensive plan amendment that was done. The town staff worked on this for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And so we're just finally taking the steps to solidify these things in those code changes. The last of those planning things was another alleyway that we're abandoning. There's a few of these in town. This one was the south side of Locust Street, beginning at East Fraser Street. There's these little 14 or 15 foot wide alleys that exist on paper that ultimately, in the end, people don't even know that there's a line running through their backyard that doesn't belong to them. They've been mowing it for years. And so we've gone through and slowly, as we've identified these because of issues with questions from neighbors or issues around land sales, and have started abandoning these and ultimately giving the property to those folks. So everybody along this alleyway, basically they just split it in half. 7.5 feet go to one side, 7.5 feet go to the other. Everybody gets a few more square feet on their property. There'll probably be lots of those from what we understand as we identify them in the community. So planning and zoning, wonderfully fun stuff. Let's see, what else did we have tonight? It's sort of an operational change. So the town every year has a property tax exemption for people over the age of 65. I think it's the first, you can get an exemption on the first $30,000 of assessed value of your home. This is the town's tax, to be clear, not the county's tax. But there's an income requirement. You have to meet you have to be below a certain income requirement. And over the years, that income requirement has not increased along with cost of living increases and things like that. So we made a small change to that. It's a few $1,000 change. There's a small number of people who apply for that program every year. It's not a large number, but it is something meaningful for folks who are retired who are on a fixed income. And so we made a small change to that piece. That was the main crux of it. So there was a lot of items there, mostly focusing on planning and zoning. The next meeting coming up on the 15th is going to have more planning and zoning stuff. It's actually some stuff that I've been working on with the town for a while, addressing significant updates to our industrial research parks, sort of bringing them the allowable uses of those more in line with how they are actually used, because we've said no to some businesses because the code is not allowed those type of uses. The most recent one was somebody looking to open a doggy daycare, and the code had never been updated probably since the 70s or the 80s to address that. And so we've actually, rather than doing a one-off approach to it, the town's been working on a comprehensive approach to modernize that piece of zoning code. And that's a big thing that I think will ultimately help as we try and bring more businesses into the community. And then the other one is addressing something that's for downtown here, which is that one of the major impediments to redeveloping properties in the downtown is that for a commercial property to be successful, it often needs to have residential component to it. So if this is a first floor retail building, it may need to have a second or third floor apartment. And effectively, because of some rules around parking requirements that we have, we've said no to a number of potential redevelopments projects in our downtown. And we're not the only town that's had to deal with this, and a lot of towns have realized over the years that mandatory parking requirements hinder redevelopment, they hinder growth, and they hinder quality of life investments. And so I'm bringing something forward to ideally, hopefully smartly remove some of those requirements for people who want to have second and third floor apartments above a commercial space in the downtown. So hopefully the rest of the council feels like that. They support that as well. But you'll hear more about that from me on the 15th, hopefully after it gets passed. So those are the big updates from the council meeting this evening. Thanks for the folks watching and participating along with me. we will hopefully have some more stuff. I did at the last meeting mention that I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the budget pieces. That budget, the town budget, is going to be coming up for a vote from us pretty soon. If you haven't had a chance to yet, if you go on the town website, smyrna.de.gov and or smyrna.delaware.gov, /budget, there are some great resources there. There's a presentation that the town had, and I'm going to try and do a little live and share that presentation to walk through some of the basics of what the budget looks like. It's pretty complicated, but as I mentioned in the audit piece on this earlier, trying to make some smart changes to how we structure our budget, how we track funding coming into and out of for the different funds that the town has to do things like water, sewer, electric, all of the municipal work, and then the general fund to support all of the general operations. We're doing a good job, I think, of modernizing what that looks like, and I think it's it's not the most entertaining thing to do, but ultimately these are investments that set our community up for better opportunities in the future. Immediately one of the things that we all see all the time is whenever we need to fund something, we go out we either need to issue a bond or we need to find debt. All of these pieces are those assurances that help us get better rates on any of that kind of funding and financing. This last year, because we went through the process of doing some of this work, we managed to save, I think it's going to be $1.5 million over the course of the life of one of our loans, by being smart about how we manage our money and how we present ourselves. So we're going to do a lot more of that because we're going to use our funding as effectively as we can. And I want to walk folks through a little bit what that budget looks like. So ideally, I'll get around to doing that this week so that folks can see it before it ultimately comes up for a vote from council in the next week or so. The middle of the month, not the next week. So that's my report for the evening. I know one of the main big questions that has been, at least on the Facebook group in the last week or so, has been about Starbucks and reopening. We do not have a date for it yet. Hopefully the word is fairly soon. Our town staff has been working really, really well with the folks from Starbucks to address a water issue that they had. Ultimately, I think Starbucks feels that the town has done a great job at this point, and we hope that we've been as supportive and as helpful as we possibly can. But I know folks really want their pumpkin spice lattes or whatever it is, your guilty pleasure from Starbucks. So hopefully those will be flowing again very soon for those folks who are definitely into it. Thanks, everybody. Again, if you have any questions or have anything, I try and reply to the messages. I try and get back. If you want to reach me directly, rasmussen.council@gmail.com, or you can email me or find me through the Facebook Messenger. And folks right here, that's a lot of people have reached out to me. Thank you very much, and I'll be talking to you all hopefully quite soon. Take care.